Husband's ex-wife and daughter came back for inheritance of his family home after we made a will, but we uncovered the worst truth in court. I, 45F, have been married to my husband Michael, 50M, for the last 10 years. We were both in our early 30s when we first crossed paths at a local art gallery. Both of us were admiring the same painting and struck up a conversation. It was like an instant connection. He asked me out on a date, and as we got to know more about each other, it felt like I had known him forever. I am the oldest of 3 children in my family. Money was always tight for us, but manageable. We could afford to go for fast food only if it was our birthday. My dad taught us very early on to work hard for what we wanted to achieve in life. I studied hard and put myself through college. I did a few modeling gigs on the side, so by the time I graduated, I had no debt. I had worked my way through the company and was currently working as a junior associate. Michael, on the other hand, had a completely opposite background. His family was financially better off than ours. His dad had a good job with a high salary and Social Security, so they never had to stress about money. Michael's parents could afford to cover all his college expenses. Thanks to his dad's influential position at his company, Michael got an internship there. From there, he worked hard to build his own path in the company through dedication and effort. Although Michael and I came from 2 different worlds, we shared the same passions for art and music. This is what made us fall in love with each other. Michael had a 17-year-old daughter from his previous marriage. His daughter, Candace, never really liked me from the beginning. She never seemed to warm up to me and often refused to engage with me whenever we met. It felt like she somehow held me responsible for her parents not being together, even though I met Michael long after his divorce was completed with his ex-wife. I understood her feelings and tried to give her the space she needed to come to terms with our relationship. Just for context, Michael and his ex-wife Amelia were married for only 3 years. They were college sweethearts, so they decided to get married, but when they did, everything changed for the worse. She was a stay-at-home mother while Michael worked hard to bring in the money. One day, Michael returned home from a work trip earlier than planned, only to discover her in bed with his best friend Tom. This was an incredibly difficult time for Michael, as he lost the 2 most important people in his life on the same day. The betrayal by Amelia had left him shattered. In the aftermath, he made the painful decision to file for divorce. The divorce proceedings between Michael and Amelia were painfully bitter, primarily because Amelia was determined to retain ownership of their house, even though it belonged to Michael. The battles didn't just end with the property, they extended into a challenging custody dispute over Candace as well. Due to Amelia's infidelity during their marriage, the judge ultimately didn't grant her ownership of the house, but did grant both parents custody, ensuring that Candace would continue to have a connection with both of them. Amelia's anger over not acquiring the property festered, and over the years, she manipulated Candace's feelings, turning her against her father. Meanwhile, Michael chose not to disclose his ex-wife's infidelity to their daughter, attempting to shield her from the painful details of their past. I found out about all this when we first started dating. Michael wanted to be completely honest with me about his past, and I really appreciated that. Once Michael had invited Candace to join us on a trip to Africa, hoping it would provide an opportunity for us to bond, I was optimistic and thought it could be a turning point for our relationship. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go as planned. During the trip, Candace seemed irritated at me and often erupted into sudden, unprovoked anger. If I got too close to Michael, she would lash out using hurtful words like gold digger. Michael was quick to admonish her for her behavior, but she would just smirk at me, making it clear that she wasn't ready to accept me into her life. I knew the situation with his ex-wife and daughter was complicated, but our love for each other was strong, and I was willing to navigate these challenges with him. After a whirlwind romance, we got married. It was a small, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and family. We were excited about the life we were going to build together. Amelia and Candace never attended our wedding, despite our invitation. Our marriage was going great initially. We traveled the world while we both continued with our jobs. I was deeply passionate about my career, and I had no intention of giving it up. Meanwhile, Amelia was living together with Tom after their divorce. Candace had her own apartment, thanks to Michael's financial support, and she was working as a social media executive in a reputed company. 3 years into our marriage, we were overjoyed to welcome our son. However, the pregnancy had been tough on me, and it was made even harder whenever Candace came to visit. She would make cruel, unsolicited comments about my weight and appearance. Whenever Michael wasn't around, she would remark that he would eventually leave me now that I was a fat cow. This deeply troubled me, and after I shared my concerns with Michael, he decided that Candace would no longer visit our home. They began meeting at cafes instead to avoid any further distress for me. When our son, Nick, was born, we were beyond happy. Despite becoming a parent, I was determined to keep working, so we decided to hire a babysitter to help us care for him when my maternity leave ended. I eagerly returned to my job, even though we were in a stable and comfortable place in our lives. I cherished my financial independence and the ability to continue pursuing my career. If Candace had issues with me before, they seemed to intensify after Nick came into our lives. At family events, which we would sometimes organize, she would target Nick, attempting to bully him, which left our son in tears and seeking our help. While I understood her hate toward me, I couldn't stand by and allow her to take her anger out on Nick, our innocent little boy. I banned her from ever coming to our house again, and we also stopped hosting family events at our house since then. Now, coming on to the issue at hand, as we are getting older, Michael and I realized the importance of planning for the future. We decided to create a will to ensure our affairs were in order. Given that Michael had already provided a flat for Candace, he designated me and our son as the inheritors of our family home. His remaining assets, which were the money and his personal savings account, would go to Candace. Meanwhile, I had my own assets, which I intended to leave to my son, ensuring that he would be well taken care of throughout his life. We both felt this was the right decision to secure our family's future and provide for Nick as he grew up. When Amelia and Candace got wind of our will, all hell broke loose. I'm not sure if Michael mentioned it by mistake or if his parents did, but they were not happy at all. Amelia called Michael, demanding that they deserved to have the house since she was married to him first, but he firmly stood his ground. He reiterated that he had always provided for Candace, from her child support to her college expenses to buying her an apartment. He told her that he would ensure Candace is secured in the future, but he was going to leave the property to our son. This seemed to anger her even further, and Amelia sent me a long text message where she called me every name in the book. I showed Michael the message, who asked me not to engage with her further and block her immediately. The following day, Candace showed up at our doorstep, clearly upset. I knew she was here to talk about the will with us. I didn't want her to create a scene in front of our son, so I quickly arranged for my parents to pick him up. With just the three of us left, Candace made her intentions known. She insisted that my son and I should give up the property because, as the firstborn of Michael, she believed she deserved the house. Despite feeling irritated, I remained silent and looked to Michael to handle the situation. He explained to Candace that he had always provided her with everything she needed in life. He assured her that he would be leaving her his savings and that he also had a commitment to secure me and our son's future. Since he was married to me, leaving the family property to us was his way of ensuring our well-being. Candace again shifted her focus onto me and insisted that she expected me to do the right thing. I calmly expressed my support for my husband's decision, which only seemed to infuriate her. She raised her voice and threatened to take me to court. At this point, I didn't want to escalate the situation any further, so I requested that she leave us alone. As anticipated, in a few weeks, I received a legal notice informing me that both Candace and Amelia were taking me to court over the property. Their accusations included the claim that I married Michael for his money and had manipulated him into taking away their family property. Michael and I consulted our lawyer, and we were assured that Candace and Amelia didn't have strong legal grounds to support their claims. However, despite the legal advice, I couldn't shake my worries, and we anxiously awaited the court's ruling.